I know about this story because I'm a Westerner, and I've seen your First Nation held up as a model, but I don't think most Canadians are as familiar with your story, which is a great success story, as they are with failure stories. I follow the CBC's Aboriginal stories, and what bothers me is that they emphasize bad news. They emphasize dysfunction. They emphasize crime. They emphasize alcohol.
That's there with all media.
But how is it though that the problems of the Attawapiskat Indian Reserve can have national coverage for weeks, months, and your success stories? I put it to you that 9 out of 10 Canadians who follow the news have never even heard of your Indian band. Never heard.
Well, we've been on CBC. We've been on Global.
Once or twice, but you're not celebrated. You're not a household name. You're not a celebrity. Yeah. Teresa Spence is a celebrity.
Well, confrontation. I don't know whether it's native or non-native. Wherever there's confrontation, it sells newspapers. It gets the media spotlight. If there's a next native confrontation, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. All the media will be there. Everybody will be there, and that's just the way. That's just the way human beings are when it comes to confrontation.
That's one part of the story, but you got another part of the story.
Yeah. So with our story, which I see, it's gotten the coverage of all the major newspapers, but you're right. It isn't in the media enough, and it doesn't get the traction that it should get. But my experience now that I'm going into my 28th year as being a chief. So many people out there want to hear about not just the Osuyu story, but there's Membertou, there's Kamloops, there's Squamish, there's Tutsina in Calgary, there's Whitecap in Saskatchewan, Rama, for example, in Toronto. I mean, they're making a lot of dough there, which is awesome. But the thing I'm really proud of is the fact that we employ over 30 different First Nations on our reserve. They come from Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Alberta, all over BC, in the Yukon. 30 some odd different tribes work on our, and it's not just in other bands that have the jobs, and every time I see a Native person on our reserve, I said, how did you wind up here? Mm. They said, we saw it on TV, we saw Osuyus on TV, we read about Osuyus, and where I come from, my First Nation, there are no jobs except those government-controlled band office.
So you're attracting the best jobs from across the country. It sounds to me like you're becoming a role model, but who are your role models? Who do you look to, Aboriginal or non-Aboriginal, as an example to follow?
Well, when I was growing up, I'm big into sports. I love my sports. I'm not just a casual sports fan. I'm a real sports fan. So I love my hockey. I love the martial arts, boxing. If you come into my office, you're going to see a whole collection of sports, from NFL football, hockey, boxing, UFC, all that stuff. But the guy that's up on my wall, other than Sit and Bull and Crazy Horse and our Chief Joseph, the past Native chiefs that did great things in defending their people and wanted to be self-sufficient, is Muhammad Ali.
What traits did he have that you admire?
That he was proud of his skin color, he was proud of his race, and actually I just read one of the things I have up on my wall that said black people should be doing things for themselves and not expecting white people to do things that they should be doing for themselves. So he says stuff like that. That's the stuff I love.
You talk about Muhammad Ali is a role model for a lot of people. For black young people, the question is, well, are rap stars the right role model, or are there entrepreneurs, or what's the right role model for someone who thinks about their skin color sometimes? I have not heard you say a word in our conversation so far that I hear from some other Indian chiefs. You have not used the word warrior. Now, I've watched some Indian chiefs, Derek Nepanak in Manitoba.
I don't like the word warrior, just in the sense that it gets abused. It's not used properly. In fact, Lakota, Russell Means was one of the American Indian movement leader. He passed away a few years ago. And he said in their language, they didn't have a word for warrior. Everybody thought Sitting Bull and Crazy Horse's people were the greatest warriors that defeated Custer and all that. He said the closest thing we come in Lakota to that word means defender. Defender. So I actually see the word warrior being abused by a lot of Native people, and I firmly believe that if you want to call yourself a warrior, first thing you better do is hold a job. You better be self-supported. you better be paying your own way, you better be paying your own bills, paying your own, for your kids. And in today's world, it's wage economy, whether we want to be involved in the economy or not. When I go up in the Arctic, there's very few people that can make a living traditionally, very few. So the majority of Native people, we have to get involved in the wage economy. So in my opinion, if you want to call yourself a warrior, you better hold a job.
I think there's an inverse relationship. The more I see Aboriginal leaders talking about being warriors, the less they talk about jobs.